Have you noticed the sheer number of people that are playing the Englund or Englund Gambit online? That is, of course, d4, e5. Let's put it up on the screen. It is completely losing for black. It's about plus 1.5 on the engine, so white's completely winning. However, it seems as though online, every other game that I now play with d4 results in my opponent playing this move e5. And so in this video, we're going to go over some of the refutation lines, a curious sideline where white can actually lose its queen, and I fell for it. I'm going to tell you all about it. However, I was watching some YouTube video about this gambit, and the presenter was saying that after d takes e5, just give back the pawn. So after, say, something like knight c6, knight f3, queen e7, play this move, knight c3, and black can just get the pawn back. And I was like, whoa, 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 no way, guys. There's no time for meekness in chess, guys. That's not how light squares rolls. In times like this, when people are playing all their dodgy gambits, they're losing lines, you know who I think of? I think of freaking Clint Eastwood. Look at this guy, man. Imagine he played chess. You think he's just going to give back the pawn? Develop pieces, all that rubbish? No, man. He's going to kill you for playing such nonsense. And so, I'm going to go over some of the refutation lines here. However, I just want to get something off my chest, which is that there is a curious sideline here in the Englund or Englund Gambit where white can actually lose its queen, and I fell for it. And so it goes like this. After d takes e5, black can play this move bishop c5. And now we have knight f3, completely reasonable, develop a piece, protect your pawn. And black plays this move d6. And perhaps here the best thing for black to do, or white to do, is to play this move bishop f4. But I took, okay, still okay. And then black plays this move knight e7. And you're thinking, light squares, please tell me you did not take this knight. Please. Took the knight, guys. Man. Light squares, did you take the knight? And after d takes e7, you do your tactics puzzles the whole time. You know how to win this game. It is, of course, the move bishop takes f2, king takes f2, queen takes queen, and it's time to hit that resign button. Look at this sorry position. And I just want to say, I'm sorry. I fell for this in the Englund Gambit. I fell for this. And just so you forgive me, let me put a cute puppy up on the screen. Look at this guy. So innocent. This puppy doesn't know what he's doing. I've only been playing the game 3 years, guys. I do tactics puzzles the whole time. This happened in a bullet game. And yeah, I'm just meandering through chess. Don't know what I'm doing. It's the last time that ever happens. And so anyway, what's remarkable about that little trick on white is the volume of people that fall for it. So let's roll this back to when it was 97. And let's put my favorite thing on the board, which is, of course, the Lichess database. So here it is. And you can see that this position has been reached 1 million times in the Lichess database. And what's absolutely remarkable, and if you don't have a Lichess account, go get one. It's a great place to play free chess. Top players play there. And they have a database with billions of games where you can study what works, what doesn't work. And you can see that in this position of the 1 million games, here, 407,000 people played this move d takes e7. It's the most popular move. Absolutely remarkable. 40% of 1 million games proceeded with d takes e7 and white losing its queen. Absolutely remarkable. So never mind some of the main lines here, which I'm going to go over in a second. Perhaps one of the best tries here for players with the black pieces is to go ahead and try this bishop c5 move in the Englund or Englund Gambit. However, it's worth looking at the main line here and seeing what works, what doesn't work. So after d takes e5, we have knight c6, knight f3, queen e7, and here you can play bishop f4, bishop g5 is an alternative, and what black is going to do is play this move queen b4. Okay, it's check. Your bishop is hanging, bishop d2, and now we have queen takes b2, black gets his pawn back, albeit a b pawn, and now you have to play knight c3. Okay, if you play this move bishop c3, then black is in a completely winning position because of bishop b4. And now how are you going to deal with this? You can't take the queen because your bishop is pinned. And so if you decide to take the bishop, we have knight takes b4, and there is an attack on this rook via the queen, but there's also an attack on the rook via a capture on c2. And so bishop takes b4 is not a good idea. If you play queen takes d2, queen d2, then black can just go ahead and take. And if you decide to take, then you basically have a fraction of a second to hit that resign button because your opponent's going to play queen c1, checkmate. And that's what they're hoping for. That's the holy grail for these Gambit players. And so if we go back to this position after queen takes b2, where white is still in a completely winning position, white needs to play this move knight c3, which I'll go over. Let's put the Lichess database back up on the screen, and you can see that this position has been reached 1.8 million times in the database. And sure, the vast majority of people get it right. They play knight c3, 1.3 million went with that. However, the number of people playing bishop c3 was still remarkable. It was 452,000. So about 1 in 4 players do this. They play this move bishop c3, and obviously the higher rated you are, the less likely you are to face bishop c3 if you're playing this with the black pieces. Even if white plays the correct refutation lines, white still has a lot of tricks and traps to deal with. So I'll give you a few examples. So after knight c3, there's this curious sideline that black can try, which is this move knight b4. And now there's this attack on the c2 pawn. And if you play rook c1 trying to protect it, then obviously black is just going to win a pawn here on a2. If you do what many people in the database do, which is to play rook b1, then you just lost your queen, because after knight takes c2 check, the only way to get out of this check is to play queen takes c2, and obviously white has just lost the queen. So the only way to defend against knight b4 is to play the move knight d4. And even in this position, although white is in a completely winning position according to Stockfish, black is still going to try things like c5, bishop c5. So it's quite hard to get out of all this. And so if we go back to our friend, the Lichess database, and ask how many people even actually play this move knight d4, you can see that this position after knight b4 has been reached 542,000 times in the database. And yeah, sure, most people got knight d4, 328,000, but there's still a good 40% of games where people cannot find that move. So it's a curious little try from black to play that knight jump. The main line in this position is just to play bishop b4. And now we have rook b1, queen a3, the queen is hanging. And in this position, knight d5 is very strong. White is completely winning according to the engine. There's an attack here on the c7 pawn. If black decides to take this pawn, this bishop on d2, we have queen takes d2. And now this queen cannot get back to this square because we're obviously going to take and then take on c7. So in this position, we can expect black to play this move bishop a5. And now rook b5 is just too strong. We're threatening a remove the defender tactic here, where we remove the bishop with our rook, the only thing guarding this c7 pawn. And then after that, we're going to take on c7 here with check and win the rook. And so in this position, I think one of the top engine lines is bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, and now the king has to shuffle across to d8, and white is in a completely winning position. And so there you go. Some of the curious sidelines and main lines around the Englund or Englund Gambit. And perhaps, as I said at the top, what players should be trying instead of the main line with knight c6, queen e7 stuff is to just go ahead and play bishop c5. It seems as though that queen trap is pretty remarkable. Thank you very much for your time. Let me know your experiences with this in the comments below.